Testing. Committee meeting. It is 6:40. With that, I'd like to call the meeting to order. With that, I'd like to ask our Vice Chair, Anthony Cepeda, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone, please stand. Face the flag. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chairperson Gonzalez,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Cepeda,
Present.
Committee Member Castillo,
Present.
Committee Member Zavala,
Present.
Committee Member Castañeda,
Present.
Committee Member Martinez,
Present.
Committee Member Mendoza,
Present.
Committee Member Janer, Committee Member Alonso.
Present.
I, Kimberly Hernandez, Housing Assistant, certify that a true and correct copy of the foregoing meeting agenda was properly posted on February 20th, 2025, 72 hours prior to the scheduled meeting as required by law. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54952.3, disclosure of compensation for meeting attendance by Citizen Advisory Committee is $25 per meeting. Item number 1, substantial amendment to fiscal year 19 to 20, 20 to 21, 22 to 23, 23 to 24, 24 to 25 annual action plans for the Community Development Block Grant Funds.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, before your proceedings begin, I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. I'm your interim Community Development Director, Dave Crabtree, and I'm kind of pinch hitting a little bit for Carol tonight, who couldn't be with us. But thankfully, we have the brilliant team from Avant-Garde to assist, and I will try my best to stay out of the way and not say a whole lot, but happy to be here to help. I know a little bit about some of the projects as staff has briefed me, but I don't know that I'll have a lot to contribute, but glad to meet all of you and glad to be here. Thank you. And the first item,
Yes.
we'll turn over to.
Would you like me to provide an overview of the item?
Yes, please.
Okay. So my understanding at the last CAC meeting, there was a presentation on the item, and then there was a request for additional information. So the reason that we are proposing a substantial amendment is because there were a number of amounts of dollars that were left over in a program years. And in order to close those programs, we need to kind of take that money and put it and reprogram it. And so staff is recommending that that's why you're seeing several action plan years are kind of coming together. So you see that we're taking from all of these years, primarily from previous smaller amounts that were left from the commercial facade program. And then they're consolidating the business sign and the commercial facade into one program with the remaining funds. So therefore, you're seeing a combined recommendation to move funds to create a commercial facade balance of $1,439,254. And then a street improvement project is being recommended for $752,540. And those streets include the 4 streets that are listed here are within the eligible CDBG area. So these are eligible for improvements. And I believe you requested some additional information from Public Works on that, as well as some additional information on the facade program. So which would you prefer to hear at this time?
Can we go over the facade first?
Sure. So as noted in the staff report, I believe it says that there were 4 completed facade improvements. And I think it was roughly over $200,000, and that's over the course of several years. We also have some pictures to talk about, like what the anticipated program is going to look. The program we have currently is a pretty hefty program, and what the vision of the city management is to help the city clean up, next slide please, to clean up the way things look. Many of these signs that are on the facades are outside of code, so they're not in compliance. And some people may say it looks like an eyesore, it needs to be fixed up. And in order to make a big impact in the community, the idea is to offer funds to these businesses that are out of compliance, that they can either fix it themselves to be in compliant, or they can utilize the program funds to update their signs and their facades. So these are current photos of, of businesses that may be out of compliance or may have some code violations. I'd like to see if Mr. Crabtree would like to add to that.
I can add a little bit, sure. And if you can hit the next slide as well. In speaking with the city manager's office, what they're working towards, it's conceptual stage right now, but the idea, as Anna's explained a bit, would be this will be, as we envision it, a little bit more proactive program where you'd have staff not only, and we plan to form a team of, perhaps some select staff from planning as well as code enforcement, and a public, business information program where we can go out to the businesses, help explain the goals of the program, that they may be previously unaware that maybe they've got some compliance issues, a need to do some improvements, some often deferred maintenance kinds of things. And the good news is we have some funding for that. Conceptually, like the current program, it's envisioned to be some kind of a match. Exactly what the percentages might be, we need to look at that more thoughtfully and do something that, it's a little bit of that carrot enticement, if you will, that, if you can put up this much, the city can provide for more, with a goal really of being that, that aesthetic improvement, overall streetscape improvement for your major arterials, with initially certainly a need to and a desire and goal to focus on Tweedy, and then to get some successes there and see if we can expand that. But key, I think, to the program will be education and getting the word out that these things are available. And so some kind of a more comprehensive, concerted effort towards that is the vision for how the funds might be used for the future.
So I have a question. What's the current, or what has been the effort in the past that has, because it sounds like these businesses have been out of violation,
Yeah.
nothing was done. The program has already been there, was underutilized. So it sounds like you have a plan in place, or you're building a plan, but
And I can speak speculatively. The honest answer is I don't know. But my sense in speaking with our city management team is it's probably been a little laissez-faire, if you will, that it's been a little more reactive than proactive. And so some kind of a educational campaign, for lack of better, is perhaps a good way to kind of change that up and see if we might have some more successes. Certainly the city's experienced a variety of changes in staffing over the last several years. And so that, might have been fits and starts on an approach or something. I honestly don't know specifically, but I think now with some more stabilized staff environment, trying to get a program up and running and give it some energy is a goal.
is there a goal in place of how many businesses you plan to do over the next year?
Not as yet, no. No, what we need to do is, certainly with this funding opportunity, get that started, but to put some meat on the bone, if you will, of that concept and get the answers to those questions and form up an approach.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay.
And so we can take those pictures down now. So the other element of the questions the reason this was held over was also to, I think you had additional questions, or you wanted to hear more information from Public Works regarding the street project. Is that accurate?
Yes, if we can go into the Public Works part of it.
Okay. So Kenneth is here from Public, there he is. And so Kenneth can provide some additional information.
Check. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and also the members of the committee, the advisory committee, and also distinguished guests. I'm here today to talk about the residential resurfacing project phase 4. And I know that last week we only make the presentation about, and overall the project. And I think one of the members asking about the paving process, how the grant and overlay process works, and also you want to see some of the breakdown of our funding. So I have a few slides that I want to show you how the grant and overlay process works. I'm going to skip like a few slices that we already talked about. I'm just going to focus on the process. So I'm going to skip the first few slices because you guys already seen the presentation last week. And this is the location that we're going to focus on is the Industrial Avenue. As you can see, the street is horribly damaged. And we're going to have to spend some of the money with CDBG to fix this street. And that street, Industrial, is right next to the Holiday Park, which is just had a grand opening. At that point, we only have money for the park, and we don't have enough money for the street. So now that we have the CDBG money, we're going to use that money to repave that street. It's just next to the park. And also we're going to make some improvement, things like the sidewalk and also some drainage issue right there. And as you can see from the top, we have the upcoming, the Southeast Gateway Line station. And when that station come into town, and this entire park is going to be really busy. So we're going to make all this necessary improvement, including the resurfacing the industrial. And also I have the upcoming project, which is going to make improvement to around the park to make all accessible to the station and also to the park. So last week, we briefly talked about the project budget and the CDBG money. We're going to be getting $752,540. And we do have the other city fund that is going to contribute to the residential resurfacing project phase 4. The total project budget is $6.2 million. Out of that, we have $752,000. We're going to spend almost 50% of the money of the CDBG money on Industrial Avenue, and everything else is going to distribute it to Pinehurst and also Hilliard Avenue. So last week, one of the members of advisory committee asking, what other funding sources do we have? As you can see from the breakdown summary, we have SB1 fund, which is going to be $2.7 million. We have some water fund, $150,000. The water fund, we're going to make some improvement on the frontage road. We're going to make some improvement on the water services and some of the lateral that been very aged and need to be replaced. And we have gas tax, some of the local fund like gas tax, capital reserve, and Measure R, all combined is about $2 million. CDBG money, as you can see from the breakdown, $752,540. So combined, the total budget is $6.2 million. Out of that, we spend almost $385,000 on design costs. And then we spend the construction costs. You can see the residential resurfacing project is going to cost $3.3 million. And then we have to make other improvements, things like the ADA reconstruction, and we're going to make some modification to the existing street on Imperial Highway. And also we're going to make some drainage improvement along the Firestone and Dearborn. And also we're going to make a new traffic signal at Garfield and Grady. So all of those costs combined is already almost 5.2 million, with the construction management services and some of the staff time and support time combined is 6.2 million. So I know one of the members of the advisory committee, they asked, what are the funding sources? And again, we have all this SB 1 fund, water fund, gas tax combined 6.2 million. And I know you guys were anxious to know, how is this grind and overlay process work? So as you can see from the first slide, we're going to begin with grinding the surfaces with that grinding machine. We call them milling machine, and to remove the top layer of the pavement. So the top layer can go from 1.5 inches to about 3 inches. Most of our residential street, we're just gonna remove 1.5 inches, and then we're gonna put back with 1.5 inches rubberized hot mix. So you can see, this is my last project, residential resurfacing project, phase 1, 2, and 3 on Kansas Avenue. The first step that we done is, of course, we're gonna distribute all the flyer, the construction alert to all of the construction, the residents and businesses, alert them to let them know that, hey, no parking, and then we're gonna begin doing the grinding. So the other word, grinding, or you call them miller the process, and essentially you can see the big machine right next on your left side of the slide. That big machine with a grinder right below, and they're just gonna grind, and with a conveyor belt, they're gonna remove all the first layer of the pavement, and then they're gonna dump that over to the back of the trucks. Then, as you can see from the lower corner, and they're gonna clean up all of this damage or the aged pavement, and they put them to the back of the truck, and then they're gonna haul that out to either gonna do recycling, or they're gonna haul it out to the yard that's gonna collect all this junk. And the next step is, right after they grind, they're ready to put back with the same pavement, but the pavement, you can see, we grind on the left-hand side, and then we put back with 1.5 inches on Kansas Avenue. This is the actual city project on the last project. So you can see that overlay machine began to put the pavement back to the street. As you can see, one lane at a time. And by the time they get to all the way to the end, they're gonna turn around and then come back to the opposite direction. When they're finished with the pavement, the overlay, they're gonna come in with the loader. The loader is gonna compact the pavement, make it very, to thicken that pavement to make it very solid, so that it won't damage anytime soon. Before we reopen that pavement, then we're gonna clean up the street, and then we're gonna do the striping, and to make sure either we have the crosswalk or any striping that is from the existing pavement, we're gonna have to come back and to restripe them. You can see the last one is to compare the before and after we done the pavement. Before is the one that we grind down the street, after we compact them and make the street such a beautiful street. The left side of the picture is the same thing to show that the one on the left side is the final product after they done the compaction. And they're gonna come back, turn around with the opposite direction and finish up the other half. That's all. I want to show you the process. If you do have anything in your mind that is not clear, I'm here to answer all of the questions.
For funding, under local return, is that general fund?
Local return, we don't use general fund for any of our construction project. So the fund, the local fund is going to be gas tax or the water fund or the capital reserve or the measure R money.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, if no further question, I'm going to be around. If you have more question, I will come to answer all of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for being very thorough with the explanation and the visuals. That really helped me.
So since there's no other additional questions from the commission, I'd like to open it up to public comment.
Say again? All right, hello, Commissioners. My name is Mario Dominguez Jr., resident of Southgate. So I'd like to be able to make my pitch to you all, the 1.7 million. So for decades, our city hall officials have had a monopoly with our CDBG funds in determining how they get spent. So as a resident, I would like to ask the commissioners to please allocate 160,000 of the CDBG funds towards our Department of Parks and Recreation for the purpose of doing plans and designs for a splash pad. However, there's a little thing that I want to add to that. Because as you all know, this all is going to go before the city council members. So if they were to say no to the splash pad, could the 160,000 still stay with the Department of Parks and Recreation and have it go towards another project that is prioritized or a program? They do recreational programs to fund those recreational programs. I would hate to lose the 160,000 simply because, okay, we're not going to do the splash pad, but have there be a contingency that it goes towards our Department of Parks and Recreation to fund another prioritized project or some recreational program, but with the intention, again, with it being towards a splash pad. Now, commissioners, don't give our council members an escape. Don't give them a way out. Force their hand to have to deal with this matter to determine whether or not they even want the project, if it's something that they want our city to move forward with, if they think it's going to be a benefit for us. And also, let me remind the commissioners that Linwood is on the move. They're going to have their plans and designs for their splash pad done spring of 2025. And the city of Paramount, south of us, they already have a splash pad. Bell to the north of us, they have a splash pad. Huntington Park to the west of us, they have two. And then Whittier to the east, they have one splash pad and what they call 3 splash fountains. And commissioners, what are you going to tell your grandkids? What can you point to and say, I did this, I played a part in making this happen? And this would be your contribution. Think of it as a gift from one generation to another generation. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you all.
Hi, good evening. I am asking for money to be allocated to Southgate Park and Hollandale Park for permanent patrols. We have had several problems over the last 15 years. We don't have patrols that are there 24/7, 7 days a week. We don't have weekend patrols. I'm asking for permanent 24/7 patrols that is not interchanged and not shared between the parks. I'm asking that you would have a patrol specific for Hollandale and at least one patrol for Southgate Park that's there as security. We all know that we call the police and they don't show up, or they show up hours after an event, whether that's street racing, whether that's alcohol, whether there's yelling or arguing or fighting occurring up to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. The park closes at 10 on the Hildreth side, closes at 11 on Pinehurst side. There's a never-ending noise. There's a never-ending festivities going on in the parking lots. They're not cleared because there is a lack of patrol there, and there is a lack of park rangers there. And if we call for a park ranger, they're often being dispatched somewhere else that they're needed. So my request is that you would have a permanent patrol just for the park. These do occur in other cities. The city of Long Beach has one for Signal Hill, where they give out citations if people are past curfew. An additional thing, if money can be allocated to Southgate Park and specific as well, just for beautification purposes. This beautification was done years ago and included, no disrespect to the workers from the park who came up with the ideas, these prison-like fences that went up with massive bars everywhere. And they repaved these, they created these pathways for running. However, the metal from under it is it's exposed through several places. So is the rubbering in the children's playground. There's a lot of things that are not functioning in the children's playground as well in Southgate Park. So I'm asking for there to be an investment of money and specific for the patrols and in specific for the beautification. Southgate Park was once a pristine place, and I'm sure that it can be returned to that same status for our city. Parks are a beacon of hope for a community. It's a gathering place for family, for children, for recreation, and I believe we can do that. I believe that this money can be used instead of, no disrespect for guessing what they can be used for. I live on Hildreth Avenue. I've seen the change over the last 20 years. My family has lived here for 30 years. There's been an extreme change and decline in this area. And thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could we just get a name for our record?
Caroline Maravilla.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and committee. Just want to advocate for Parks and Rec. I think that, as some of the previous speakers have indicated, there's definitely need there, whether it's for splash pad or patrols, or I know the auditorium requires some repair. I know that the Parks and Rec director was here. He stepped out, but I believe he was here to advocate for that. And so, again, just in general, I think that Parks and Rec can definitely use some funding for many of the things that are going on or planned and on the horizon. So I'd like to advocate for that, and hopefully, we can sort of bring the park back to, how it was, I guess, years ago. There's definitely a lot of amenities, a lot of things that have been approved upon, and those are great. But again, I think that there's always room for improvement, and I believe that some funding would be used in a manner that would improve our parks, not only Southgate Park, but of course parks throughout the community. So that's what I would advocate for. I would, have you consider that. And in terms of some of the other items that were recommended, I think that Tweedy Mile or Boulevard, we know that can use some help as well. So I think that that would definitely go to good use. However, I would also, I've had some conversation with some business owners along Tweedy, and they have indicated that the process to apply for some of these improvements is somewhat lengthy. And not saying to just give them the money and let them do whatever they want, but I think that some focus on the process would be an improvement there. And I know that they're working on the process and some plans for that. So I hope that that's going to improve the process and help a lot more businesses take advantage of this program. Thank you. Oh, my name is Edgar Pelayo.
I don't know. Hi, I am the director of the Parks and Recreation, Steve Costley, and they're all right, and we would love to spend every penny we can get. We're nothing against that, if you find money, we'll spend it on stuff I currently have, I was just talking to Mr. Dominguez here, and we currently have almost $60 million in projects that need funding throughout the whole Parks and Recreation Department. Large part at Hollydale Regional Park has a whole plan of different phases that need to be done, but there's tons of other things too. In 2008, when the city put together their Parks and Recreation Master Plan, the request of the community was not build new, it was fix what we have. We have a lot of great things at all of our Southgate parks, but we have 192 acres of park and a limited budget. The city doesn't have all that funding. So we often use CDBG funding for that. This year, we completed a $2.1 million fence project with CDBG project funding. We've completed roofs on the sports center in different places. As a Parks and Recreation Department in the last 15 years, we've spent over $20 million doing improvements just at Southgate Park. We are currently spending $47 million on investments on 3 of the parks in the city. Hollydale Community Park, some of you may have been over there and seen our brand new park that we opened to the public in the end of January. Circle Park, which we are spending close to $7 million on in the Area 5 off of Garfield. And then the Urban Orchard, which is our brand new park, which is situated distinctly between the 710 freeway and the Bandini Channel. And that's a $33 million brand new park that we're putting in. So money is, we like money. Everyone likes money. We like money and we want to spend it. But I also have a lot of smaller projects that if available funding is there for our shade structures, we have 10 baseball diamonds at Southgate Park. Of that, 4 of them have shade over the seating areas for the kids and for the spectators. We've been asked on several occasions, can we supply shade for the other ones? There's 6 more diamonds that need shade. Each set of shade structures for each diamond is probably going to cost us about $100,000. That's with plans, engineering, and installation of it. So 6 left, we still need 600,000. It's not something we have to do all at once. If there's 100,000 here or there available, we can spend it on that. So we're happy with those type of things. We have a scoreboard at the pool that broke down 2 years ago. We need $80,000 to replace that. Our swim teams and our other kids doing swim lessons would love to get that back up. So thank you.
So yes, at this time, if there's any further deliberation, comments, if you have questions of us and the staff, including Mr. Costley, certainly can do that. You can incrementally decide on certain things and we'll be taking notes and we'll be keeping track of the amount so that we're within the dollar amount that we need to be.
Does anybody have any questions or suggestions on how we should divvy up the funding? We have a couple of asks from residents in regards to our parks. Our Parks Director also asked for funding. Is that something that we want to consider?
That is something that we would consider.
If I may just elaborate on some of the things for eligibility purposes. So the only one that would not be viable under the substantial amendment would be the security services, because that would fall under public services, and that has to fall within that 15% cap of your total allocation. So currently, we're talking about dollars that don't fall under that 15% cap. This is the substantial amendment is outside of that. So it's not for public services. The other items would be eligible in terms of activities that it could fund.
I have a question. For the Hollandale Community Park, Circle Park, and the Urban Orchard, the funding has already been allocated for that, or is there additional funding, an additional funding request to complete anything else?
No, all three of those parks have already been funded. We received grant funding from both the state of California, the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, Anthony Rendon's office has donated or brought us some state-funded budget monies. So all 47 million of that is grant funded and already been received.
Thank you.
Yeah, which is the next item.
One of the items that I'd like to, commissioners, take a look at is the commercial facade program. I'd like to recommend for us to reduce that and give some of that funding to our parks. I'd like to recommend for Mr. Crabtree and his staff to create a pilot program. It sounds like over the last few years, only 4 businesses have taken advantage of this program for a total of 200,000. It's not that I don't trust the process, but sometimes we have to see it to believe it, right? So what I'd like to do is, again, propose a project, reduce the ask from, correct me if I'm wrong, the proposed budget will be 752 that they're asking for?
I'm sorry, so.
Oh,
the
sorry, for
commercial
the facade program. What's the total that they're
The
asking for?
total, after the adjustments, the program would be left with 1.4 million.
So I like to reduce that to, I like to propose to reduce that to 400,000. Again, and with the idea that it's a pilot program.
I'd like to second that motion. Anthony Cepeda.
Committee Member Castillo,
Yes.
Committee Member Zavala,
Can I have a little bit more time,
Yes.
please?
Yeah.
Can you call on me last?
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Committee Member Castañeda,
Yes.
Committee Member Martinez,
Yes.
Committee Member Mendoza,
I'm also on the line for that, 400,000. I would like to know if the 4, they were able to help, what was the cost before? The
With-
4 businesses.
With the 4 businesses was a little over $200,000.
Okay.
So that would be about an average of about 50,000 per
50,000.
business, give or take.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Committee Member Janer,
Yes.
Committee Member Alonso,
Yes.
Chairperson Gonzalez,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Cepeda.
Yes.
Going back to Committee Member Zavala.
With the clarification, and I agree, yes.
Motion passes. Item number 2, fiscal year 20.
No, I'm sorry, we're not done. I understand that it seems like you're going to make recommendations until you deplete the total amount, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we still have a balance. We have a balance of 1,039,250 of the commercial facade that needs to be programmed, recommended, and you still have also the request for the 752,000 $540 for the street program. So you can make recommendations from there.
So with that, I'd like to open it up. If anyone would like to propose how the additional funding be used, we can open that up to discussion.
Can you repeat the balance, please?
So right now, there's a request for the street program. If you wanted to just talk about that, I don't know, but the street request is $752,540. It's in your staff report. It's the middle column, so you'll see your dollar amounts there. So that's for that program. If you want to discuss that program and make a motion or change that, maybe we can start there. The other balance that I mentioned, so if you took the 400,000 that you're saying for the commercial facade, that leaves the balance of $1,039,254.
Yes. Is there a question or a comment?
It's more of a comment.
Okay.
So just for clarification, the Parks Department is very much in favor of the street program.
Okay.
So don't want you to think they're not, because that street is obviously it's going to impact, the traffic and the going and coming around the park. So it was just to make sure he didn't want to be greedy.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
I do have one question regarding the street improvement project, and that would be if there is additional funding that is probably needed for any additional projects that you might have, since you said that this money would be utilized for Hildreth, I believe, and then the other would be divided for two other streets, or I mean industrial, and then divided into Hildreth and another street. Would there be additional funding that's needed for completing Hildreth or the other street?
That 728,000, all of the money we're going to spend on the street that around the park. And because the street is such a bad shape, we want to make all the improvement that we could to make everybody safe to use the park. So to answer the question, we do not have enough money for all of the street. So those 3 streets, it was added per their request, per the boss request. So we need to make all this improvement this year, use them, and then we're going to move on to other street after that.
And if I may add, the programming of funds needs to be certain as to what it's going to be used for. We can't just say we're going to put a pot of money for street improvements. We actually need to identify the street. We would need to know the estimate of cost. So if I may suggest, that has been done for this program. You saw it's a $6 million program. They've already looked at all of their costs. There's going to be a phase 5, right? So, and maybe that's something that direction you would give staff that for future years allocations, that would be looked at so that they can present another program or another street program for that. But just to add money for a project that's already packaged and ready to go out to bid, I think we would be delaying the process, correct? Okay.
Thank you.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the recommendation of 752,540 for the street improvement project.
I second that.
Committee Member Castillo,
Yes.
Committee Member Zavala,
Yes.
Committee Member Castañeda,
Yes.
Committee Member Martinez,
Yes.
Committee Member Mendoza,
Yes.
Committee Member Janer,
Yes.
Committee Member Alonso,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Cepeda,
Yes.
Chairperson Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 2,
Well, hold on, I think we still have a balance.
We have $1 million too, roughly,
So,
I mean. so-
Can I have the park director come up one more time? We can ask him. So one of the things that we have a very passionate resident that's been asking about, I think you know, the splash pad. So how viable is that? I know that he's asking for 160,000. I know that he's had some conversations. However, because of the cost, I know that that has to go out to bid for architectural services. Is this something that's realistic for us to build? I don't want to just throw money at it and then we don't have the money to actually bring it to construction.
Right. Mr. Dominguez and I have had many, many conversations regarding this thing. And I'm not opposed to the splash pad as an overall idea for the Parks and Recreation Department. But as the city has already put together for the coming year's budget and other things like that, we are much more at this point in a needs versus wants situation in the city, especially in the Parks and Recreation Department. We have a lot of wants. We definitely feel okay about the splash pad. We even picked out a site for it. But as we move forward, there's not going to be the funding once we spend that $168,000 on it to design it for the actual implementation of it. Because our priority is going to be on the needs side of it. As we've noted before, I need a scoreboard, $80,000. I need a gym divider for $40,000. I need updated shade structures on each field at $100,000 a field. There's a ton of projects across the board that are more need-based than the want-based. And it's hard for us to say, hey, let's build something new that we also have to now maintain on a regular basis because it doesn't come free. We might build it, but you still got to buy the water, pay for the maintenance, do all the stuff, get the extra staffing that goes with it. I know that's really what he wants. He's been pushing for a long, long time, and we don't disagree with him in that concept. It's just as we have been developing the plans for the city, we got to take care of what our residents asked us in the first place was take care of the infrastructure you own before you put new in. Because what they look at is, why did you do that, but this is still broken? Why are you putting this?
Can I ask, you're talking about your needs-based analysis, and in your prior presentation, you had mentioned how the community doesn't want to build new, but they want to fix what we have. Can you tell me how you make that assessment as to how you prioritize a scoreboard, shades, like what goes into it? Is it public input? Is it your own professional analysis? Is it a mix of both? And where does that analysis fit in with a vision for the city? Because based on what I've heard, Southgate is getting left behind in terms of a splash pad, right? And I understand where you're coming from in terms of, we have a lot of needs. We might not have room for wants, but I would like to understand how you make your analysis in terms of what projects to prioritize.
No problem with that. And part of that is we first go back to our overall master plan, which we started in 2008. And for every 5 years after that, we updated those master plans. Those were community input. Those weren't staff driven. Those were community driven from 2008. In 2013, we revised that plan to relook at what the community wanted to do. Each and every year, we brought to them the same concepts that were brought up in 2008 and said, hey, what do you want to do? They made some little changes here and there, but the overall arching emphasis was still fix what we have before you add new, just because. They did ask for one or two new things. If you've been around this city for a long time, we have a girls' clubhouse in the park, right? Built in the early 1960s, right? We had a point where we redesigned the whole concept. We were going to tear that whole building down and build a new 3-story structure because the Southgate Park is currently impacted. When we have programming, we can only allow so many kids to play because we're out of space. But COVID hit, we couldn't find the $27 million we needed, and we had to kind of scrap those plans. So we have gone out, we've gone to that. We went through almost 17 different meetings that got us the Circle Park, Hollydale Community Park, and Urban Orchard for different input from the community. So we do a lot of input sides of that. As for the infrastructure side, what we look at is how does that either benefit safety-wise or the overall numbers of people at the park. The shade structure side of it, which is one of our higher priorities, is we've got kids throughout the whole summer. It got hot this summer. When it hits 100, they're still out playing baseball. I think they're crazy, but they're still out playing baseball, right? But they need a place with shade to sit under. When we finally put in the shade in the small quad, which is our 4 middle diamonds, the parents loved us. Because if you're a parent, you ever had to go out to a game, if it's hot, you're finding a tree. It might be, you might know that your kid's up to bat, but you may not because you want to stay under the tree. This gives us a little more protection for our children and stuff like that. So that's how we make part of that priority list, is how do you do that? Things like scoreboard is we do 400 swim lessons a month at the pool. We have an active swim team. We have swim teams from the 3 different high schools here that practice at that pool. They need that to compete because that's where their times come out. That's where their stuff shows on the board. So we look at those. We've had it. It went down. We haven't had the $80,000 to replace it. So we look at that as part of our overall need. That's the staff side of it.
And so based on your, and I appreciate the explanation, it clarifies a lot. Based on what your experience has been in terms of funding availability, and how long would Southgate be in a position to be in a wants position?
There is a one, and let me just clarify something. We don't want to throw out all of the want side of it. There are things that we try to build into other projects. Our Circle Park project, we got a lot of requests for pickleball and futsal. We didn't have anywhere in the city. So as we built in new remodeling park projects, we include those in, right? Not saying that, hey, the splash pad would be something we would throw out forever, but as we look at certain items right now, as the city's budget tightens, we're going to need to fix some things. We're going to need to put some money into some bigger ticket items. And we want to do that first. If there was a magic pot of money that just threw everything so we could take care of the maintenance and all the other stuff, we would probably look at that. I know Mario's passionate about it, but you can't, I'd love to choose them all. I tell Mario, if you got an extra 20 million, we'll look at everything, but we can't. And so that's how we do it. And I'm not saying the want's not there. I know Mario's asked for it for months and months and months, but it has just been Mr. Dominguez. There hasn't been a large calling amongst the rest of the community for the splash pad. I have, at least not that we've seen on it.
So there's always going to be maintenance, right? So there will always be. So at what point would we consider in the wants that, let's add that to the budget?
And as you look at that, you are correct. There's always maintenance, and we have staff currently that does the maintenance at Southgate Park with what we currently have. To add a facility like a splash pad requires additional maintenance. So now it requires additional staffing. We also have to do a splash pad. If you don't know what it is, there is a giant reservoir of water underneath the splash pad that recycles the water, that squirts out and has all the kids playing in it. They all have fun. It's a great time. I love them, right? But we got to have someone maintain that, check for any leaks, do all the cleaning. The filters have to be clean because you don't want your kids playing in dirty water, right? So there's a lot of California regulations that go with it. So now we have to add maintenance. And that's where our difference on part of that, that's where the wants problem comes in for us, is we could build it, but now we have to add to the city's overall staffing problem of, hey, we need more people to actually fix this, maintain it, more lifeguards or someone out there just to make sure the kids are being nice. Most of them are nice, but there's always that one kid who wants to see if he can do a backflip off the top of something. type of thing. So, and that's why that's the additional part of a want.
If I may just offer a few things on eligibility, use of funds. So CDBG funds, I know you're not asking, but I want to make sure you understand that you cannot use these funds for maintenance. That's not an eligible use. And then also if, for example, a project such as a splash pad is designed with CDBG funds, we still need the accomplishment, and the accomplishment would be the construction of the actual item that was designed. So the project needs to be completed. It needs to have some funding to complete the project. They have to go hand in hand. As soon as you use the CDBG funds, it's federalized, and there needs to be an accomplishment, and the design alone does not check that box, just so you know.
What's the expiration date on these funds? Or the sunset date?
This is a substantial amendment. There's not an expiration. The funds, for example, they can remain unprogrammed, and they would be considered with the action plan that we're going to go on to next. So there is some time to come back to, to the city with other projects. But we are the city is under warning that they have not been timely in spending their funds. And so I'm really hoping that we pick some projects that are going to spend the money so that we can get out of this problem. Every May 2nd, there is a control where HUD will check to see where you're at. We're allowed to keep 1.5 so we can always keep in our bank, our allocation in half, and we're way over that. We're like close to 3 instead of 1.5.
I have a question. So under item number 2, there's more asked than what's available. Can we transfer some of this funding into that pocket or that pool of money?
No. Where the area where there's more than what's available, that's specific to the public services cap. So that's 15% of that year allocation. That's the most that HUD will allow us to program for public services. And the rest has to be used for non-public service activities.
And can funding be designated for Southgate Park renovation so that we, as Daisy was talking about, maybe get some additional input from community on how they would want it spent too? I mean, we do have priorities, shade, other things like that.
Not for the substantial amendment.
It has to be specific.
No, because this is scheduled for the meeting, the next meeting.
Mhm.
It's not this is the public input time.
Okay.
And, but you have dollar amounts for some of these other items.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, and
typically, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes,
just
Mr.
that, Mr. Chairman, if I might, at the risk of speaking way out of my depth, because I know enough about these programs perhaps to be conversational, but I think you're starting to see with this discussion some of the opportunities and constraints that staff have to work within to try to target, and the list that was brought to you was one that was done with some thought of what are projects that we can, expedite along and help fund within the parameters that that we've got to work within, always with the idea of future funding, and the input that we're receiving at this series of meetings with the committee is great because it's all good to inform future efforts. But one of the things the committee could consider is just, you're in recommending mode. You recommend up to the council. So send your messages, what your interests are, what you're hearing from your community, you as residents, your values of where the money goes. And the council can take that certainly into their consideration with the within the technical boundaries they've got to have. And between now and that meeting, staff can work further with the direction this committee gives to help form up some options for the council to consider too. Appreciating the need for specificity, and ideally we'd be there as specific as we can be, but we can also hit that final at the council, if you will. So as much as we can get from the committee, that's great, but don't feel that you're doing short service if you can't quite get so specific on down to the dollar. Is that fair? Okay.
No, you're right.
Don't know if that helps or hurts, or but thank you.
Oh, thank you. Question? Were you going to propose something? Can you come back up? So besides the shade structures, scoreboard, what else?
Gym divider. A gym divider, and for what, that is a safety element for the indoor sports center. As we play different sports in there, we might have a youth basketball game on one court and a volleyball game on the other court. And while you do that, volleyball hits the ball really hard because it's teenagers, and we don't want them hitting the little kids on the 5 to 6 year old court with it. So a divider is basically a large curtain that drops down in the middle of the court, so we can protect either side during some of those mixed use games and stuff. It also allows us, for those, when we want to put on aerobics classes, sometimes in the gym, and basketball at the same time, so we can use all the space. The people doing aerobics don't always want the basketball visiting them. It's kind of one of those things. So it helps with both of those. So that's another kind of safety and availability that allows us different uses at the park. So it gives us a little more multi-use of the facility at the same time.
Is there a cost estimate for that?
That's $40,000. Yeah.
One of the residents who spoke earlier talked about beautification of the existing children's playgrounds. She mentioned something about, I believe, fences protruding through the sand or the rubber where the kids play. Are you aware of any of that? And could you speak to that? And that's one. And the second thing she mentioned was about the running trails and perhaps having similar issues with the metal fences protruding.
I am familiar, especially the playground one. I don't know what she's seen lately. We just finished putting almost $400,000 back into that playground. So it was what's called the rubberized surfacing. So when your kids play on something, you fall off the swing. When I was young, you fell in sand, right? And then it went to wood chip and you brought it all home in your pockets. Now you fall on rubber. So that tends to crack and stuff sticks out, but it costs a lot to put back. And so we had to do that, replace a bunch of the slides. It took us a long time. We know that, but that was one of those, you got the money, because not when it breaks, no one says, hey, you got a free $200,000 hanging out. So it took us a little while to get it all done, but we did just complete that a few months back. So that has actually been completed. As for the jogging trails, Southgate Park is a unique space. If you've been there, we usually jog about 2,000 people a day around that park. And we have a jogging trail. We have an official jogging trail in the middle of the park. But if you've ever been there, the real jogging trail is around the outside of the park. And if you ever try to leave or come into the park, you have to wait for the joggers because there's going to be 50 of them before you get to turn in, right? Part of that is that request. And as Anna had noted earlier, that's a maintenance question and not something that could be handled on the CDBG side of life.
Are there any additional projects that you can think of related to the park?
Yes, sorry, my brain turned off on a few of them. There are. We need to redo our tot lot playground. At Hollydale Regional Park, there is a small tot lot outside of that area on Gardendale. It is our oldest tot lot. It still has sand we didn't even get that one up to wood chip yet. It still has sand and is in desperate need of replacement. That's going to cost us about $120,000 in change for that. And that would be a total tear out of the whole thing, replace all the pieces. The pieces are older than some of the members here, and we couldn't save any of it. It would have to go and get totally taken down on that. So that would be another of the higher priority ones. Also, since we did not redevelop the girls' clubhouse, the inside of it needs a significant increase of completing all the cabinets within it. As we store up our stuff for all of our Tot Time and Tiny Twos classes, there's tons of art and craft stuff, and the cabinets are literally 60 years old, and they all need replacement. And that's going to be about $25,000.
With these amounts, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Sorry. With these amounts, is this also taking into account contingency?
Some are, as I look across these, some of these would include the contingency in them already. As a single project item like the curtain, the gym divider, that's a single base project item, which wouldn't need as much contingency on it as something like rebuilding the playground over it.
And will the installation of, for example, of the curtain, it becomes federalized, so you have to go out to bid, and these would require Davis-Bacon wages. So,
correct.
Okay, so that amount is inclusive of the installation at that level.
To my best at this minute.
I would just recommend maybe adding a little bit extra just in case, if you're going to consider that.
And if you've never done a Davis-Bacon, I get to at least tell the story.
Yeah, it's you have to pay certain wage requirements that are set by HUD for workers. So it makes everything very expensive. So just keep that in mind. So my recommendation for any of these things, maybe add 10-15% just to make sure you're covering unforeseen costs. And then at the conclusion, there can always be another substantial amendment, but we want to try to allocate the funds as best we can.
And Ann is quite correct. Back in the day, we put 2 baseball fences up with general fund money. It cost me $12,000. When I put them up with CDBG money, it cost me $60,000. Sometimes it's 2 to 3 times more the cost of normal, just because it's CDBG.
I have one more question on the scoreboard. Is the scoreboard utilized by the community at large?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there one more item that you would like?
Sorry.
Or that there's a need from the community need that would serve, again, the general public, not just subgroup?
And are the huts eligible
me?
anymore? The Boy Scout huts eligible?
Who uses the huts?
A variety of different groups, from Boy Scouts to Job Corps to Venture Scouts.
So is it rented out? Is it a fee-based usage, or is it like subsidized fee-based, meaning low-income households, persons from low-income households utilize the space and the price is not unreasonable?
We do not charge anyone to use them.
Okay.
All of our groups that go in.
So you're talking about the roof?
Yeah.
It would be eligible.
Right. And so one of them, some of our huts in the Boy Scout area are desperate need of roofs. They are all, the initial part of those buildings were actually built originally by fathers in the 1970s. They grabbed 20 Boy Scout fathers and said, let's build a hut. And they built them, and they're still here. But yeah, there's a few other roofs that you can see through, which is probably
how much
not.
are we looking at for that?
Per roof right now, we're probably talking on an individual, just the roof part of it, probably somewhere close to 30,000 per roof. There's 8 different buildings there. So 1 to 8, anywhere on that.
Okay.
And can you give me the number for the tot lot again?
What?
Can you give me the number for the tot lot once more?
120,000.
Yes.
Thank you.
If I may recommend that if you're looking at like kind of a package of parks and recreation projects, I wouldn't specifically say 100,000 for this and 100,000 for that. Just say the items you want, we will work together to
Okay.
make sure that the costs are, covered as part of the recommendation that'll go to the city council.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
I'd like to propose the following items, and again, this is open to discussion. Would be the shade structures, the scoreboard, the gym divider, the cabinets. So basically everything that he asked for. Again, they can figure out the numbers, but I'd like to recommend for everything that our Parks Director asked for us to use the remainder, which is a little bit over $1 million, to be used towards our parks.
Mary Castillo, I second that.
I'm sorry, clarification. So is it for what he asked for at any parks that he was talking about, or specifically a park?
Well, I believe he just mentioned 2 parks, which was Southgate Park and Hollandale Park.
But you're okay?
Yes, we're okay with the
Okay.
2 parks.
Okay.
They are both located in CDBG area.
Yeah,
Okay.
they are.
And there's also the Circle Park, right? It's that small little park. I forget what that park is called, where the sand is still there.
That's
That was
That's the,
Hollandale.
okay,
Hollandale, yeah.
Holiday, okay.
Committee Member Castillo,
Yes.
Committee Member Zavala,
Yes.
Committee Member Castañeda,
Yes.
Committee Member Martinez,
Yes.
Committee Member Mendoza,
Yes.
Committee Member Janer,
Yes.
Committee Member Alonso,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Cepeda,
Yes.
Chairperson Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We're done. We're done with the first item.
First one's done, right? Okay, we go to number 2. Does anyone have the coffee machine going?
So item number 2, is basically to hear presentations from the applicants that might still be here. They submitted their applications. As you can see, there are 7 applications for public services, which exceeds the amount that we're anticipating available for public services. And I do want to note that there was an error in the addition. The total public services request is 294,500 and not 271,000. So that was an error, and we'd like to make sure you understand that. And then we have 2 non-public service applications that were submitted. So we have an order that goes along with your packet, and we're able to ask people to come in. Just some considerations. Programs that are eligible must not supplant already funded programs. You can't use CDBG funds to help the city lower their expenses. So these would have to be enhancements to programs that are existing, or a new program, or an existing CDBG funded program. Also, CDBG public services, they cannot be 100% CDBG funded. There has to be other funding to round out the cost of that program. And in our city, this city, all of the services need to assist low, moderate income households or persons from low, moderate income households. And let me see. I think that was it. I think that's all.
Okay. So I know that, not sure if the Southgate Explorers are still here or if they left for the night. I know are the kids still here? Okay. I know it's a school night, so I want to be sensitive to that. Is it possible to have them come back in, be first? That way they can.
We can start, and then
Yeah,
when
we
they
can
get
start, and
here,
if-
we'll slip them in.
Yeah, so
Okay.
as they come in, yeah. Okay, thank you.
So the first presentation would be for, I think it's California Latino Leadership Institute, or, there we are.
And Mr. Chairman, just while we've got the first
Thank
presenter
you.
coming
Go
up,
on.
just point of order, and I don't know if it's how, I'm ignorant, so I'll have that luxury, but I don't know how often the committee deals with these kinds of things. Certainly our consultants do, and any helpful hints for how you might deliberate on these, if
Oh,
it's
yeah.
best to take them all in one motion at the end, so you can, divvy up the money, that's great. And I think we've, in talking with the presenters, we've told them to make their presentations like around that 5-minute mark, just for help there and keeping things moving along. And
Yes, I would recommend the presentations would be complete, and then if you had questions, you could ask questions of the presenter and, have them respond to your questions. That would be best. And then, yes, it would be we need to deliberate and have one motion, not go one by one.
Correct. Yeah, typically what we do is, to your suggestions, is we allow everyone to present, and then we deliberate, and then we divvy up the funding.
Thank you.
Unless we want you to stay a little bit longer. No, I'm just kidding.
Go for it. Press the button so it's green. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Baca. I'm the Executive Director of the California Latino Leadership Institute. This is, I believe, our 4th year doing the college internship and trades program with the Southgate Chamber. Last year, I was allotted $21,000 specifically for the interns' pay. And I am happy to report that we are over 50% in, I believe we're at 11 interns that have so far gone through the program. Last one, I believe, is finishing today, so we'll be either at 11 or 12. So we're more than halfway there, and I anticipate we will exhaust all of this money by the time we're done in June. I do have a letter of support that I will share from the Southgate Chamber, Ana Lizarraras. That will go into the public record. And just to reiterate, the program partners with the City of Southgate City Manager's Office that goes out through the citywide newsletter. We also use the Chamber's Constant Contact database. We use the LA County Library to post on their board, East Los Angeles College, both Monterey Park and Southgate campuses, California State University, Los Angeles. We circulate this, but we have found the best feeder for Southgate low to moderate income has been our new partnership this last year with the Richard Slauson Southeast Occupational Center, which is a trade-focused program located right on the border of the city of Bell and Southgate. We do have at least 2 a month, a lot of women, and we do have some men interns. And I'd like to point out that this year's parade was put together with 4 interns, November, December, working. Even on the weekends, they're willing to come in. So basically for 62.5 hours, they get a $1,000 check with all the deductions because the Institute pays the fee through paychecks to have all of their deductions taken out. So they go home with like 900 and something. But in our report back, all of the paperwork required by HUD is all prepared for us by paychecks. There is one issue I'd like to bring to the attention of the CAC. We did submit billing for our first round. We didn't get our contract. We never get it in July. We get it in September, so we start in September. I have not been paid for my October invoice, which is over $4,000. So I brought with me a 2025 W-9 and an updated board of directors. It would be really good if the people who do apply for CDBG grants are paid within 60 days, maybe 90 days, but it's really hard as a small nonprofit to carry. Right now, I'm carrying the 4,000 from October. That was September, October fellows. I've paid November, December, January, and today I paid the 2 more February fellows for almost $8,000 $10,000 out of pocket. And I haven't billed it yet, but I did bill the 4,000 in October and I still haven't been paid. So I hope you consider increasing my budget from 21,000 to 24,000, which will allow me to add on 3 more, which I do believe we will fulfill. And I appreciate you allowing me to continue working with the chamber here in Southgate. Any questions?
Well, my question would be more around your contract. What does your contract state? 30 days, 60 days for the city to pay?
The consultant reviews my contract. I'll let her answer.
So request for this is all programs are on a reimbursement basis, and as the reimbursements come in, we review them for, all the accuracy and compliance, and then we will sign off and submit it to the city, where the city will then process the payments with finance department. There isn't a set required number of days in the agreement. I think everyone expects to get paid within a timely manner. I think all of us that work on the opposite outside of city government are used to being slowly paid, but 60 days would be, I think, acceptable, but it's been longer. There's been a lot of changes with the city staffing that I understand to be the reason why. There's finance changes, shorting of staff, and there's a lack of assistance to process some of the payment requests, I believe. This is just because I'll receive the emails from the subrecipients asking for their payments or what's the status, and then I'm passing those requests on to the city. So those are some of the things I've heard. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any questions from the committee? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The Explorers are back if you'd like to take them.
Yes, I'd like to call up the Explorers program for the presentation.
Everyone, whatever you guys want to. Sorry, they're getting situated.
That's fine.
Yeah, they went to go work out. It's their PT day. My name is Detective Lopez from the Southgate Police Department. I'm a police explorer advisor. These are some of the explorers, not all of them. We have approximately 13. Our Explorer program is aimed towards our youth and our community, ages 14 to 21. During this time as explorers, they learn how to write police reports, write citations, participate in community events. We go to explorer competitions. We need the money for equipment, so just their basic uniforms, belts, flashlights, prop guns. For our competitions, when we go away, we need uniforms to fund for food. We cover all the costs for the program, so all of the explorers' parents, they're not required to pay any kind of funds or money. We cover all the costs, so it gets pretty expensive when you have more than one kid. We are currently sending our explorers to an Explorer Academy. It's not hosted here in the city of Southgate. We work with a South Bay agency. So we send all of our explorers to the El Camino College to participate in Explorer Academy. And it's about 12 weeks. So 12 weeks, so 12 Saturdays. And at the academy, they learn all the basic fundamentals of kind of like a police officer lifestyle. And it's aimed towards like a actual police academy, but obviously for youth. And we'll have Matthias come up. Matthias is Explorer Corporal.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
If you have any questions for me, I would love to hear them out.
Yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about your experience, what got you into the program, what you're getting out of it, and what your experience has been through the program?
Definitely. Well, what got me into the Explore program is the end goal, which is to be a police officer for the city of Southgate. I love Southgate and I love its people. I love all of you. And I just want to give back to this community. And ever since I was about 5 years old, see, my family was part of the neighborhood watch. So, I mean, we had a pretty good relationship with the law enforcement. And, well, I asked cops everything I could. Say, I want to do this. What should I do? And they told me to go in the Explore program. I mean, you're doing what a cop does as a minor, as a teenager. I mean, the youngest we had was about 13, and I was 15 when I attended the Explore graduation. It was actually let's see, 4 days after my birthday. I went to the academy. I would have done it sooner too, but unfortunately the pandemic happened, and well, I found my way over here. I love where I'm at, and I mean, it's really helped me. Recently, I was honored with the Distinguished Graduate because of the community service hours I've received from this program. I'm getting hundreds of hours. They're asking me how I do it. I'm an explorer. It's easy for me. We're working every day, or it feels like it at times. Sometimes it's dry months, but in Christmas, December, we get busy. And we go to work, and that's what I love. I mean, this is where I want to be, and I hope I could come back. That's why I chose to join the Army, because I mean, what's the best way to give back if not under the flag of the United States? And I hope that I could just serve you guys. I want to be there for you guys. I mean, it hurts to see all the crime happening, and I can't do anything about it. I don't have a badge. I don't have a gun. I'm still a minor, but I can say that the Explorer program has gave me that option to become a police officer in the future. And it's really, enlightened me. I mean, I could have been at home, I like playing video games. So I could have been home playing video games doing nothing. I mean, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying this is something that's really encouraged me. And I mean, my heart's just growing. I have a second family, it says, you're no one until you're loved, and obviously my parents love, my family loves me, but you can't always be with mommy and daddy. So this is just my second family, and I feel loved. I want to share that love with all of you. So I mean, I love you.
Is there any of the other kids that want to come up and say a few words? Or again, you don't have to speak loud if you just want to state your name and why you're in the program or what you get out of it.
Good evening. Good evening. After I joined the Explorer program, it helped me very much stuff. It helped me time management, self-discipline, helped me a lot of stuff. As Emily was saying, this is like a second family. Something I will always remember and never forget them. Derek Mulato, ma'am.
Thank you.
I think what Matthias was trying to explain as far as like going to work and being busy, right? Part of their duties, they participate in community events. So like our Tweety Mile Street Fair, Christmas Line Parade. We also have police department events that they participate in. They've gone to police graduations. They've done their Explorer graduations. We've presented colors for the Parks and Recreation whenever they have events. And we're pretty much a helping hand. So we do community events, not only for our police department, but for all of you too. And it does get expensive, especially when we have a lot of kids. When we went to our most recent Explorer competition in Arizona, that competition alone, it cost us about $10,000 just to take 14 kids, because we go for about 5 days, covers our food, our competition costs, their uniforms, or anything else that we may need while we're gone. We have a competition coming up in May, so we do need to allocate funds for that also. But that one's local. We don't have to go away for so long. It's probably not going to cost us $10,000, but still, it's a lot of money that we need to put forth. So we really appreciate your guys' time and whatever you guys can generously donate to us.
Any questions?
Any other questions?
I have a comment. I want to say thank you to our youth. It takes a special person to be selfless and wanting to serve your community and stay strong, stay focused, and not only meet the goal that you have in life to serve others, but exceed it. Be the best that you can always be.
So just wanted to make a comment. I'm familiar with the program. It's been here for years. Actually, my cousins and brothers were a part of it, and we're talking about they're in their 30s. So just for future, next year, I noticed you're asking for a certain amount, which is 23,500. I know the cost that you guys go through the programs when you do the runs, and there's so much, right, that you do. Just next time, you might want to add a little bit more because the program deserves more funding.
Yeah, we do need more funding, but also we don't want to over ask, right? And then not get exactly what we need. Obviously, we know we need the money. We also fundraise and we try to do that as far as like the kids to have them participate also, and knowing what it's like to work for the money that they need, right? So we do fundraise within our department. They'll sell T-shirts or anything, kind of like what they're wearing right now. Or coins, we'll sell coins also, barbecue fundraisers. We try to do what we can, right? And obviously we'll take what we can get because we do need it. But we also don't want to over ask. But
just consider.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
For
We
the-
will consider it now that you're offering.
For the record, about how much do you cover per explorer?
It's really more expensive when they're brand new because we have to pay for all new equipment for one, right? Because we have to get them fitted for uniforms. Like a uniform shirt itself alone, $100. Their pants are $100. Their boots are about $80. A Sam Brand belt's $100. Their underbelt's about $50. So it's almost about $1,000 per kid. Yeah, it adds up. It's expensive, and especially when we have like a bulk of kids that come in. And then all of a sudden we're spending maybe like $10,000 on uniforms alone. And then if we only get $20,000 and then we're spending half our budget on uniforms, then we can't go to a competition because it's going to cost us too much money. So we do take that into account too. We try to reuse whatever we can. Yeah, sorry. We try to reuse whatever equipment that we can so that we're not wasteful. But at the same time, there's wear and tear, there's damage, things break, and they're kids, they're teenagers, and they go all out and they're really committed, they're dedicated, and we want to give them what they deserve, really. So, thank you.
Thank you.
The next applicant is Compatior, but I don't believe they're here. I received an email from them that they had an event, one of their bigger food distribution events, and they were going to try to make it, but I don't think they made it. So you have their application?
We do. Yeah. Okay. We can go to the next one.
The next one is the Southgate Police Department's Family Violence Prevention Program.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Maldonado, and I'm the program manager for the Domestic Violence Program of Southgate Police Department. Thank you all. It's nice to see everybody again this year and some new faces. I added some pictures on here for confidentiality. I just made sure that we couldn't identify people. These are some of our participants from our support group, and we do a yearly beach trip, and we took a picture last year. We pay with donation money for these outings, so it doesn't, CDBG funds don't go into that. So the program. Southgate Police Department is very unique in that we have this component of a victim-centered program that addresses the needs of victims of mostly domestic violence, but we really service a number of other victims that are victims of other crimes like sexual assault, shootings. Approximately 80% of our victims that we serve are domestic violence victims. The other 20% are a number of different crimes. Statistically speaking, in Southgate, we see about 300 domestic violence incidents. And just to give you like a scope of how prevalent domestic violence still is, the FBI estimates that for every domestic violence call that comes in, there's 4 incidents that go unreported. And this is a picture from some of the outreach work that we do throughout the year in our Southeast community. I'll talk about the picture first. We do one therapeutic art we have a therapeutic art program. We meet once a week on Thursdays, and we do therapy that's focused on healing. It's very trauma focused, and this was one of the workshops that we did having to do with finding and healing your inner child. But our program is part of the police department. Our referrals come in directly from our police officers when they go out to calls of service. Victims are handed a pamphlet with information on resources. Our program is on there. So at that point, the victim typically calls us to seek services. Our program also gets a lot of referrals from word of mouth. So like schools, the WIC office, family and friends in the community. After a victim places a phone call to us, we schedule an appointment either over the phone or in person. We assess their needs, connect them to the proper resources. Sometimes we see somebody once and we send them on their way and they're fine. Sometimes we have victims that stay with us for many years and we just become a support system for them, like a safety net for them. Our program doesn't require that we have a police report for services. So even if a victim hasn't found a string to report, we can still provide services to them. Services. So our program is small. We provide a lot of services, but it's a small program. We offer 2 support groups a week here in our city. We provide case management services, individual counseling. For individuals that need to leave their situation, we do emergency shelter placements and relocation. We assist people with restraining orders, and then we do court accompaniment for restraining orders, family law, and criminal cases. And then how you saw the picture of outreach and education in the community. This is a crime scene, not from one of our crime scenes in the city, but I'm also part of the Domestic Violence Council in LA County. So we do get called out when there's different domestic violence related homicides throughout the county. And this was a homicide that we had in LA County a couple of years ago. Staffing and CDBG funding. So when I talk about the program and what we do, I am the staff. So I do it all in different increments. Our days look very different. There's no typical day. Today, for example, I was in court for 5 hours and came back, had a couple of appointments, and now here I am. With the CDBG funding that we've received in previous years, we use it to contract with the master level social worker who comes in and helps us with our support groups, outreach, and she does individual therapy with children. Children is her specialty. So when we have kids that need therapy and we can't connect them outside of our agency or our program, then she'll take on the therapy for those kids. So that's where the CDBG money goes. I think that's it. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
I have a question. How many women did you serve last year?
About 220.
So a lot more than what you originally thought or what you put on your application.
That's only the numbers on the application are specifically for people who meet the criteria for CDBG funding. So not everybody that comes through our program goes through the CDBG portion of the program.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Is it only women or is there men as well?
No, we have men too.
Good to know.
And yeah, and in LA County, we have one domestic violence shelter for men. So we utilize them quite a bit. We don't have a support group for men, so we typically do individual counseling for them.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Public Works graffiti abatement. Ossie?
Good evening. My name is, excuse my voice. My name is Osi Arola. I am the Public Works Superintendent for Electrical and General Maintenance Divisions, and one of our sections is the graffiti abatement program. I want to thank the committee, the chair, and the committee for the opportunity to come and present to you tonight. Our program is a program that is 44 years in the city now, and we are proud to have a program that has done so much for the community. As you can see here, it talks about the vital importance of the program and what it does to eliminate blight, to deter issues of public safety, to eliminate improved property values, and also with as much money being spent in the development around the city of Southgate, it's really important that when developers come in that they see a community like Southgate that has a robust graffiti abatement program. Here is a quick snapshot of our program. We have 6 important team members. 2 of them are full-time, 4 hourlies. We have 5 specialized trucks, a couple of pickups and hydroblasting units. We're mobilized 7 days a week, and there's a breakdown on the Monday through Friday crews as well as the Thursday through Sunday. So we're 7 days a week. The team has their commitment to the program. Yeah, I believe everyone can see that out in the community. Here it talks about our notifications and response times. We try to, of course, abate graffiti within 24 hours of notification. We utilize a couple of means for that. We have a 24-hour graffiti hotline, as well as the city has taken a step to bring online services for service requests. We've done that through what we call OneView, excuse me. We've also integrated with another service request program that's going to allow us to track the activity and to come up with information that we can share with the police department and others. And that program is going great. So, and what's important there is for yourselves or anyone within the community, they can call in on the hotline or go online and report to us. Here, it just talks about the standard colors that we use. We take out the graffiti, then of course, business owners and residents are free to paint over those, but these are our standard colors that we use throughout the community. I wanted to really give you some visuals. I mean, these are real live pictures as far as graffiti throughout the city of Southgate. What's interesting is most of the time, probably when you're up or you come home, you don't see this. Our team is out right from the morning through the afternoon, 7 days a week. And so a lot of this, without that type of program, this is what you would see. Here, we get into the gang graffiti. It's very pronounced in the city of Southgate. What's so unique about gang graffiti is because these are all messages from one gang to another, and they speak about territories, they speak about murders, they speak about a lot of different things. And so our goal is to get this down as quickly as possible to prevent any type of retaliation going on in the city of Southgate. Here you're looking at tagging crews. So taggers, a lot of times we kind of think of them as some small child or young adult out there just kind of doodling or something. It's much more than that. These taggers are gang affiliated sometimes. Sometimes they're independent, but sometimes they have crews as well. And either way, they get into violence. There's a lot of messaging that's going on between taggers. And if we don't take it down, as you've seen in areas where graffiti is not abated, taggers especially, they want to make their mark. They want to put out their tags. And so the more they can get it up and keep it up longer, the more they're going to do it. So, and here's just, again, just a snapshot of open spaces. Here's where you or your family or family members may jog, bike, walk along these riverbeds. And again, if it wasn't for a robust graffiti abatement program that we have, this is what you see on a daily basis, because these are areas that are away from the public otherwise, or away from their eyes. Here are parks. We were just talking about parks. Well, here are pictures of what the park could look like without a robust abatement program. And again, these are not pictures that happened last year or even a month ago. My team put together this, helped put together these pictures, and these are very recent pictures. Playgrounds, again, very recent. You can see what children would have to play on, what children would have to encounter without a robust graffiti abatement program here. Hydroblasting. Hydroblasting, I meant to mention that paint, we took out 855,000 square feet of graffiti last year. That's about 4,000 gallons of paint. That's about, I don't know, about 15 football stadiums worth of graffiti. For hydro, that was another 335,000 square feet of graffiti abated. And you can see when we use the hydro blaster, you can see what type of surfaces that we utilize the hydro blaster for. And again, this is ongoing. Here's some before and afters, just to give you a snapshot of it here at Tweedy, what you would see walking down Tweedy. Otherwise, we do, our teams are broken up, and we do focus on areas such as Tweedy. We have crews that are broken up into 3 sectors, and then we have 2 crews that are set up with special assignments. Here, again, before and after. And again, you know, children are walking to school, you guys are walking your families. Here's exactly what would be seen without the graffiti abatement program. And here's what is seen because of the graffiti abatement program. The graffiti abatement program map, as we see here, most of the city is CDBG eligible now, so we're servicing a large section of that area. Here's monies that both the city and CDBG have donated or contributed to the program. One of the trucks we purchased last year was a specialized truck that we're going to be using for special assignments, and together this was some of the totals that the program for $563,000. Here are some of the square footage numbers for paint removal and for hydro. And as I said, 855,000 for paint. That's about, again, 4,000 gallons of paint itself. And then for hydro, we're about at 334,000. That's about another 1,000 of graffiti remover that we use. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Mary Castillo, I just wanted to say this department does an excellent job, and they know where there's certain hotspots. I personally see them pass by, even though you don't report it. So they do that in addition to taking care of all the reports. I call in a lot of reports, and thank you for responding very quickly and keeping the community looking clean.
Thank you, Mary.
Excellent job. Thank you.
We really appreciate your support. Anyone else?
Thank you for coming, sir. Question, from
Yes.
last year, you requested 90,000, close to 91,000, but this year you requested 140. Why the 49 increment, 49,000?
No, they did not request. They requested more than the 90,000. I believe they requested the same amount.
Correct.
But they were allocated the 90,000.
Okay.
So the 90,000 is what they actually were programmed. but their request was higher than that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Thank you. And again, thank you for the service that you do to keep our community looking nice.
Well, and I really do mean thank you for your support, because again, without it, our team, and again, as the gentleman said, we love Southgate. Southgate's a great community, so we want to keep it clean. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our list. Oh, yeah. Southern California Rehabilitation Services, Miss Anna.
Good evening, everyone. I need coffee. Chairman, committee members, guests, whoever's here still. My name is Ana Ramirez. I am the Assistive Technology Facilitator for Southern California Rehabilitation Services for Independent Living, or SCRS. We are a nonprofit organization. We help the disability community. We've helped them for over 45 years. Some of our services include, but are not limited to, independent living skills training, housing assistance, benefits counseling, advocacy services, and assistive technology. For over a decade, SCRS and the City of Southgate have partnered in bringing its residents within the disability community the opportunity to obtain assistive technology items to help improve their quality of life. Some of the assistive technology equipment and devices which have been obtained include wheelchairs, rollators, walkers, canes, portable oxygen concentrators, scooters, bathroom aids, portable ramps, hearing aids, wireless, self-leveling spoons, and so much more. The equipment mentioned are a brief example of the items which some participants have obtained. Most of the equipment provided help to increase self-care, enhance independence at the home and within the community. All of the items provided through the City of Southgate's home modification program have served to better quality of life for them. Today, we are here on behalf of the disability community of the City of Southgate to request continued support. I'd like to answer any of your questions. Coffee, anyone?
This is you're servicing both Downey and Southgate?
With the CDBG home modification program, we're only servicing the City of Southgate.
Okay.
Exclusively
Okay,
Southgate.
good. So I was going to ask, what is their contribution?
So
But it's
actually,
Southgate only, okay.
only Southgate, but we do service other communities within the LA County, and actually we have several offices: San Bernardino, Pomona, Pasadena, Arcadia, 2 in Downey, and 1 in Sacramento.
But this one in particular is just for the Southgate.
It is geographically restricted to the residents of Southgate.
How many residents are you currently serving in the city of Southgate?
At the moment, we are serving approximately 15 to 20 for this current fiscal year.
What's the greatest need that you see in this community?
Education, to be quite frank. Education of the resources that are out there, especially when we're talking about people with disabilities. Many of us, me included, as being a person with multiple disabilities, many are not aware of what resources are out there for them. So this is a great opportunity to not only promote the program, but also educate, let the community know, hey, you're not alone. This is what we can do with you, not for you, because we are an independent living center. So we are there to support, provide the tools necessary for them to continue living independently. So we teach them, we educate the public as to how to do that. In regards to the equipment, I'd say mobility items, anything to do with wheelchairs, walkers, canes, things like that. The main focus of this program is to have people with disabilities to either gain independence or continue living independently in their homes. So one of the priority for these programs basically is to prevent individuals to be institutionalized prematurely. So for them to continue living at home with their loved ones. That's pretty much the goal too.
Chairman, if I may add, because you may notice that previous fiscal year they were not funded, there was CDBG CV funds. These were specialized dollars that were given to the city to respond to the pandemic. And we had a balance at the end of the year, and the council had allocated funds for the program. So it says NA because they were not CDBG funded. And since she was receiving those funds, they didn't ask for CDBG funds that year.
Right. We did not want to be greedy. But
Yeah.
there's definitely a need out there.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
And our last subrecipient application for public services is the Los Angeles Centers for Alcohol and Drug Abuse, La Cara.
Okay, so we have some newsletters. Had we known we were going to be here this late, we would have brought you coffee, but we don't have any.
It's
so.
not too late. It's never too late.
I know, exactly. Good evening, everyone. I'm Priscilla from LA Cata. Thank you for the opportunity to share how we support Southgate residents through prevention, education, and treatment. Youth prevention and education, we equip young people with knowledge and skills to make healthy choices through school-based drug and alcohol prevention, peer mentorship and leadership programs, family workshops for stronger communication, mobile Narcan training to combat opioid overdoses. We provide free Narcan kits and overdose response training, on-site education for schools, businesses, and the community, community engagement and residential treatment. We strengthen community wellness through public workshops on addiction and mental health, residential treatment with 24/7 support and life skills training. During the fiscal year 24-25, Q1 and Q2, we provided services to 10 unique clients in Southgate. The types of services provided included recovery bridge housing, group counseling for alcohol and drug services, behavioral health counseling and therapy, skills training and development, group counseling by clinicians, other targeted case management, and residential support services. The data highlights our ongoing commitment to serving the Southgate community through direct intervention and structured treatment programs. I would now like to introduce Chris Morales, our program manager, who will share how we have secured beds specifically for Southgate residents.
Good evening. Additionally, Nuestra Casa, a 45-bed residential treatment facility that's located here in Southgate, is dedicated to supporting individuals struggling with substance abuse. To further assist local residents experiencing homelessness, we are able to work in direct partnership with the Southgate Police Department. This collaboration enables officers to refer individuals in need directly to our facility, providing them with immediate access to care and resources by strengthening this referral system. We not only assist those affected by addiction, but also contribute to the well-being and safety of the entire community. Thank you for your time and support. We hope you will consider our request for $15,000 to further expand our efforts and continue providing vital services to the Southgate community. If you guys have any questions, we're here to answer them.
I have a question. With the funding that you received last year, specifically from this program, how many individuals did you serve here in the city?
10, I believe, yes. 10 individual local Southgate residents. For
You're talking about the
quarter 1 and 2.
this current fiscal year, correct?
Yes, this fiscal year.
So it's only, I think you're
Oh, you're only
reporting
in
two
quarter two?
quarters, right?
Quarter 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the goal for the year?
I believe it was 13.
So just in 2 quarters, you've already served 10. Okay. Any other questions? Last chance? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Would you like to hear the presentations for the non-public services at this time? Okay, great. So our first non-public services applicant would be from the Southgate Chamber of Commerce. Is Anna here? Yeah.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Thank you for your time and consideration of our application. I present amongst you a proposal of our project. As part of the California Network of Women's Business Centers, serving women entrepreneurs across the state in 16 women business centers, the Southgate Chamber of Commerce is inquiring on your support for the following project. Southgate Women's Business Center. This project will provide women with training, business consulting, and access to capital. In 2024, New Economics for Women organization has selected the Southgate Chamber of Commerce as a location to serve within the South Los Angeles area. To ensure that women residents of Southgate who wish to become successful business entrepreneurs and take full advantage of the new CELA Women's Business Center, the Southgate Chamber of Commerce is seeking a $12,000 grant from the CDBG funding to hire one dedicated bilingual Spanish and English part-time staff member for the Southgate Chamber of Commerce. This will allow us to promote and identify Southgate women to participate in this program. The goal is that each woman owned small business established in the city of Southgate will generate revenue for the city via business licenses, retail tax, and increase employment opportunities as a future Southgate woman-owned business. The grant would be used exclusively for a part-time staff salary working 15 hours per week for a total of 60 hours a month at a rate of $1,000 a month. This will also allow us to provide them part-time employment for 12 months, effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
How are you reaching out to these women to?
Through
join the
marketing, through marketing platforms, through our social media, through networking events, as we want to strictly cater to the Southgate residents.
How about for those women that are not in social media or networking events?
Then we can consider, yeah, thank you for that question. We can consider doing mail outs or utilizing some of the city platforms as well.
Okay, if like mail outs, like sending out flyers and stuff?
Yes.
Sometimes I just see, flyers. I don't pay much attention, throw them out. Will there be any one like walking and knocking on businesses?
Canvassing and walking,
Canvassing, yes.
that can definitely be done. A lot of the networking events that we host at the chamber, we have community members coming to us, but I also like that recommendation that can definitely be implemented where we go out and do the outreach.
Yeah, because there's many women out there that
Don't do
not
social
that.
media, yes.
Well, not only not do social media, they just don't look for the resources that are available to them.
The opportunity.
You know,
Okay.
so
Yeah, thank you for that recommendation.
Thank you.
I have a question. So you've talked about the different events that the Chamber of Commerce is already hosting and how it already brings in the community.
Yes.
What value add would this part-time staff member add to those efforts that are already being done?
And thank you for that question. Basically, what Ms. Zavala just mentioned is doing that outreach, right? So sometimes we're comfortable because we know that we have a combination of business owners coming to our facility already, utilizing the platforms that we use through like an email blast, a social media post. However, if this employee is granted or this is granted, it would allow us to do more outreach at a different level and can include canvassing or other social media platforms to utilize and promote, and mailings.
Is there anything in addition to outreach that this person would contribute to the creation of this program, or anything more substantive in terms of the direction of the program itself?
Yes, so ideally, we want to focus on providing an employment to a person that is knowledgeable as far as grants, so they can train this potential business owner or entrepreneur how to apply for grants, how to open a small business. At the Chamber of Commerce, we have kind of like a role that ideally we want to be like the AAA to the city of Southgate. So I do get a lot of people coming to us saying, hey, you know, what are the first steps of opening a business? So I feel this candidate would be filling that position.
Does the Chamber of Commerce already have someone in mind for this position, or would you wait for the funding and then see who would be qualified enough to meet those?
We would wait for the funding. Yes, we do not have somebody at this time. You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Any other questions?
No additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Our last but not least presentation is from Upwards Care. Thank you. And there is a presentation.
Good evening. My name is Felipe Gamboa, and I'm a Community Impact Specialist at Upwards, a major government collaborator and community partner and program administrator. As a single dad of two beautiful girls here in LA, I know all too well how hard it was to find affordable, quality childcare. Upwards is the nation's largest childcare network, partnering with municipalities at all levels of government to address the childcare crisis. At the local level, we represent over 1,500 female-ran minority-owned micro-enterprise childcare providers nationwide in Southgate. Despite the importance to our local economy, these childcare providers average only $17.82 an hour in the city of Southgate, qualifying them for to low to moderate income. I'm sorry, I'm not changing the slide. Sorry about that. These childcare options is the primary focus for families, typically because these providers offer lower tuition costs, they're in closer proximities, and they offer non-traditional hours for the community who doesn't typically work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Meanwhile, in the case of many cities across the country, there is a massive capacity gap, specifically in Southgate, with nearly 80% of all children under 6 unable to access childcare, leaving thousands of families desperate for a solution. Without reliable childcare, families, especially mothers, struggle to fully participate in the workforce. For single parents such as myself, this is an even bigger challenge. But the great news is the Boost program is a proven model that helps solve both ends of the childcare equation. The goal of the Boost program is to equip low to moderate income childcare providers with personalized coaching and digital tools to optimize their operation and revenue. This allows them to efficiently manage and expand their small businesses, create local teaching job assistants, and improve the quality of care. So how do we do this? Each care provider is paired with a dedicated, each childcare provider is paired with a dedicated care specialist that essentially offers business coaching. We're giving one-on-one customized business strategy to help them with their personal business goals throughout the course of the program year. The care specialist will help guide the providers through Upwork's child care management software. This software is designed to streamline their entire operation, boost revenue, improve the quality of care. The proprietary software includes a family matching algorithm tool that matches families with providers in the local area. There's enrollment automation, electronic billing, a curriculum management software, and also enhanced safety measures with much more. With the $104,000 in CDBG funds that we're requesting, we're looking to bolster 13 of these in-home child care providers and create 4 new teaching jobs, which will expand access to affordable care for hundreds of working families in the community. I should note that one of the advantages of the Boost program is its scalability. It can be scaled up or down depending on funding. It will not compromise the quality of care. It just means that we're able to reach out and support more providers with additional funding. So here are some of our projected outcomes. We want to help increase revenue and capacity. We want to retain and create new childcare jobs and improve access to quality care for families in the community. But we can't do it alone. We need partners like you to help us expand our reach and amplify our impact. We've launched this program in nearly 20 counties and cities nationwide, including Garden Grove, who actually just recently extended their program for a third year. But since 2024, in 2024 alone, we've partnered with dozens of municipalities to support over 220 providers and create 129 new jobs, far exceeding our projected outcomes. With your support, our team can tackle Southgate's childcare challenges by strengthening providers who are most at risk for closing without immediate assistance. By investing in Boost, you'll make a meaningful impact on the community, ensuring that children receive quality, affordable care that parents rely on. There's just some testimonials here from other providers that we already have serviced. And I would like to add, and staff, please correct me if I'm wrong, but because we're not a public service program, I think we would be able to qualify with the fund balance from the previous year. I believe in 23-24 fiscal year, we had applied for funding. We weren't awarded funding, but I think we might be able to qualify if that's available. Our program is ready to go, hit the ground running, and we can serve additional members separate from this year's request. But I'll open up to any questions.
How many businesses are you serving currently in Southgate?
So in Southgate right now, there is 36 in-home care providers. Of those 36, there's already 4 that are on our platform. Now, they could be they're on our platform, but they're not utilizing the full benefits of the Boost program, meaning they're not getting the one-on-one business and technical coaching. They just pretty much have access to the platform. And these could be providers that already are experienced in running their daycare. Not all providers need all the essential services. That's why it's personalized. Each provider will have their own separate goals and objectives that they're that they need help with. Some of them just need help with marketing. Some of them are like, hey, I need help with billing and other areas. But to answer your question, there's only 4 of the 36 in the city that are on our platform right now. Our application is to support 14 with the funding request. But like I mentioned, it could be scaled up or down. So we are able, if funding is available, to take on and support more, all 36 of them if possible. But again, depending on funding.
So of those 4, why do you feel that they're not taking advantage of your program if they signed up for it? Is it the cost or what's impeding them?
It's typically the cost. So the platform is available to any providers who want to join and market themselves to get more clients. But the Boost program is the program that's specific to the one-on-one business coaching for the providers. This could be providers that just open up a business or just open up the daycare. They don't really know how to run the full operations of it. And so this program is to partner with them and give them those tools and resources in running their business.
Okay. Any questions from the rest of the commission?
Yes, out of the, well, how many children are served or enrolled in, currently?
So each provider, excuse me, it varies based on state regulation. So right here in the middle of the screen, there's small providers. There's a certain number of kids that one provider can service. And so one of the ways that we help increase capacity is by bringing on a teacher and assistant, and that's where that job creation comes in. And you look to the right-hand side of the screen is when we bring on a teaching assistant, we're able to increase capacity to support more kids. Yeah. Exactly. So right here, you can see on this screen, this is the numbers specifically to Southgate. So currently there's a little or close to 5,500 kids ages 0 to 5. And we only focus on age to 0 to 5 because after 5, they're already enrolled in after school and there's after school programs. But with the available childcare system in place within the city, there's a little over 1,100 slots available. So that number on the bottom are families or kids within the city who are looking for care, don't have that capability. That's where we're looking to support. By providing the assistance to the providers, we're able to chop away at that capacity gap by giving them the tools and resources to help and serve more members of the community with childcare.
Okay, so,
But to be a little bit more specific, I don't know exactly each provider, how many kids that they're serving. At least I don't have the data on me. I can.
so right now they just have the max, like one per, if they only have that one teacher, they can only have 8.
Right. So if it's only you, the business owner, you're the sole provider, you're only allowed to watch up to 8 kids at any
Right.
given time.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, 'cause I'm in education.
Awesome.
But, you're want to fund 14 out of the 36. With the 104K.
Oh, with the request of 104,000, that is for us to provide the business coaching to 13 individual.
Coaching, okay.
Right, individual daycares within the city.
And are these only, toddlers, like cradle to preschool? Or are they also school-age children?
Yeah, it could go up to age 13. The numbers that I displayed are just only on ages 0 to 5, but when we incorporate all the way up to age 13, then the numbers will even increase. So some of the providers do provide services to 10-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds.
Yeah, because I'm also aware of the restroom issue. Will they be able to provide, if they do have the school-age children all the way to 13, will they be able to have 2 restrooms
Yes, so
available?
yeah, that's a great question. So when we are partnering and working with these providers, we're not only ensuring, this is where that quality comes in. We want to
Right.
ensure that the quality of care that they're providing is top notch. And we pay visits, do in-person visits to the facilities, and we make sure that all the equipment is up to par. If they need any equipment, we help with equipment, licensing. We really make sure that the full facility is up to par to support the kids that they're serving.
So this request for 104K is not only then limited to coaching, it's also for the other needs.
Yeah, so besides the 104 that we're requesting, Upwards will contribute additional funds. The specific number for this specific would be $22,000. So besides the 104, Upwards will use our own money additionally to provide additional services for the provider. So if they need equipment or if they're lacking equipment, we will step in and provide that. Even with the creating of the teaching assistant, that new job, we will even give the providers a stipend to help cover some of that, the salary to pay that provider. We'll cover that for.
And
the
that will
providers.
be covered by you?
With us, yes.
Your funds, not this funds?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to clarify some of these numbers that are here.
Oh,
that
sorry.
You are, it's okay, it's the mask. Some of the numbers that you've spoken with my colleague. So in reviewing your application, so I think I'm getting confused because there are two different variables being thrown around here. My understanding in reviewing your application was that the $104,000 requested was to fund the compensation of the 8 staff members that are in your slide and also described here. And then, so that's one thing. But then you're also talking about servicing 13 care centers or caretakers in the city. So I'm confused because there's one request to compensate the salaries or the compensation for your staff. But then I think the projection for the $104,000 is then being quantified to the use of the individual home care centers. And so if you're talking about 13 or 14, rather than $104,000, we're talking about anywhere from $79,000 to $85,000. So can you clarify what's going on? Because we've also touched on the fact that different centers will have different needs. And so some centers won't utilize all 8 staff members here. So how is the individual cost per beneficiary calculated if we're not just going to provide funding for the salaries of these 8 support people? Because then you're also talking about supplementing through upwards additional things like equipment. So it's all getting convoluted. So can you please streamline, what is the requested funds going to go towards? And how are we calculating that? Because it's difficult to say, hey, like one person is going to use $6,117.64 of like the salaries that we're providing. So it's not clear to me where the numbers are coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry for the confusion. But yeah, so the $104,000 is to cover the staff that's implementing the Boost program to the 13 providers. So typically it's about $8,000 that we calculate to support one provider. And that is divided amongst the staff members within our department. And so each staff member will dedicate a certain percentage of their time on this specific program with that provider. And so that's how we came up with the $104,000. It's $8,000 per provider, and we had requested to support 13 providers, which is how we got to the $104,000. And the separate from those funds.
So let me interrupt you there. Your application says that you'd estimate to benefit 17 rather than 13. So it's not 17, it's 13?
So we put the 17 because we're going to support the 13 providers, and we also account for the jobs that we're going to support as well, the new jobs that we're going to create. So one of the projected outcomes is 30% of the providers will create a new job, and so we account for the additional 4 new jobs, and that's how we got to the 17.
Question. Is this also, were you working along with the State Department of Education for the licensing to increase from 8 children to 14?
Yes.
And also with the other agencies that provide childcare and will cover childcare, would you also work with them? Because most childcare providers have families that go through programs of the state.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that you brought that up. Upwards is actually a partner with the state of California, and we administer subsidy payments on behalf of families who do qualify. And we do that, and most of the providers that we work with do accept those subsidy payments. And this is why it's so important that we implement a program like this that really takes care and supports the infrastructure within childcare, because what good is having a subsidy payment if there's no providers available to take on these kids and accept the kids? That's the one part of your question. The second part is, yes, part of the one-on-one coaching is we work with the providers to increase their licensing and insurance to get to that larger capacity to bring on more kids. So we work with the business to get to that next level with the state.
So you will work with providers that already have assistance through other agencies, that you will overlap their requirements through that agency, or you're just requesting your particular requirements as well, aside from their requirements?
They would be 2 separate programs. So the subsidy program is administered through the state, where the state is giving qualified families a subsidy to pay for the cost of care. And so they would go to one of their providers. It could be on our platform, it could be on other platforms, but our providers will accept subsidy payments. But the program that we're looking to implement is just the business and technical assistance on the operational side of the business. So there's no overlap in programming.
There's no.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, because from
Okay.
what I understood, that childcare providers that provide childcare for subsidized families, they have to meet the requirements through that agency.
Yes.
And they have each agency has particular requirements. I was wondering if you add to that or you combine your requirements with that agency and make it into one.
Yes, we do that. So part of our internal review when we bring providers on our platform, again, going to that quality of care, we want to make sure that all the providers have clear licensing. So we look at state licensing data to make sure that the licensing is active. There's no reprimand reports. There's no issues on that reporting. It's also a little bit more advanced because besides the work that we do with local municipalities, we actually partner with the Department of Defense, and we provide childcare for militaries during their drill weekends. And they have an even larger standard of quality that the providers need to maintain and match. So I think that beyond just meeting where the state is, it's a little bit higher as well because of that existing partnership.
Thank you.
Yes.
So your agency provides free services to the people in Southgate?
Yes, so when we utilize this funding, we're able to provide these services free of charge to the provider for the full program year. Even beyond the program year, if the provider chooses to still stay on our platform, they stay on our platform as part of like a cohort program where they're not being charged anything. That's why I suggested if, depending on funding and availability, if we're able to increase funding or even get funding from a fund balance from prior years, we're able to support more businesses in the community and give them the services free of charge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I know it's extremely difficult. My hat always goes out to the committees. There's so many great programs and initiatives, and for staff to make recommendations and to decide who gets what is extremely difficult. So I thank you guys all so much for allowing me to be here and all the work you guys do. Thank you.
I'd like to open it up if anyone in the audience would like to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Regarding the graffiti abatement, I know most of you folks aren't a fan of graffiti, but I would say 90% of what you see in graffiti is trash. But there's this one type of graffiti that I've always been a fan of since I was a kid, and I'm sure you've all seen the big block letters with the bright neon fluorescent colors. What you have to understand about that type of graffiti is that these people had to practice that. That's just not something that, they just scribble, and make up. They actually have to practice it and actually draw it out on paper and practice what their style is going to look like. But that's the type of graffiti that I've always loved and been a fan of. But that chicken scratch that you normally see, the tagging as they call it, that's trash. So I encourage the commissioners to support the graffiti abatement. You're seeing what you're getting. You see the services that you're getting for that. And then what was the other one? There was another. Oh man, somebody came by. I was trying to remember what was the other one. I don't have the thing in front of me. I'll leave it at that. Oh, doggone it. Thank you.
All right, now we get to talk about how we're going to divide the money up. So quick question before we do that. The public service projects and the non-public service projects, is it the same pool of money?
So the city, we're anticipating, in order to have this process, we're anticipating, should the city get the same allocation as they have this year. So we're rounding it to 1.2 million. 15% of that amount is the cap for public services. 20% is the cap for administration. And then the remaining balance would be available for community development, infrastructure, and such as non-public service activities. So your numbers, just so you would know, I knew you were going to ask me this question. So the full request is $294,500. And if we're anticipating the same amount, you would be looking at $180,000. So there's an overage of $93,500. And then on the non-public services, there would be an available balance if we receive the full allocation of $780,000. And then from that would be the boost or the Chambers Business Women's Center. That one would, if you were to take those, that would be minus $116,000, and that would leave $664,000 that will be programmed for most likely community development activities or CIPs.
Okay, thank you. Can we skip to the non-public service projects first? So with that, I like to make a motion to, or I like to actually open it up to discussion. I'd recommend for us to go ahead and fund the Southgate Women's Business Center for the $12,000 and to not fund the Boost program.
Anthony Cepeda would like to second that motion.
Well, sorry, Anthony, but I said I would like to open up for discussion.
My apologies.
Yeah, before I make the motion, or you can make the motion then.
You actually making a motion, seconding the motion, and then you have discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Okay.
would be appropriate.
Well, with that, I'd like to make a motion to, I guess I could repeat myself, to fund the Southgate Women's Business Center for $12,000 and to not fund the Boost program.
A second?
I would like to second that motion.
Now it would be open for discussion if there's any discussion,
Yeah, so
or call for the vote, either way.
does anyone want to discuss it? Any comments on that?
Remind me again, which is the women's project? I mean,
No, so the first project would be to fund the women's business project to help, I believe it was 12 individual women on how to start a business, manage a business, improve their business.
Can we talk about the rationale for not funding
Yeah, yeah.
any, if at all, the
I
Boost
was trying to
program? Is
remember
it
which one is
because
here. This
four
one here, right?
daycares are already participating, or what
So
is
fund
the
this one.
mentality behind that?
I mean, well, for me, I believe this is like their third year that they've come to ask for funding. There's 36 businesses that they can target in the city of Southgate, and out of those 36, I believe this is the first time that we've heard them report that they're helping any of them. So not sure what value the daycare see that out of the 36, there's only a handful of them. In addition to that, it doesn't seem like they're willing to help any of these programs or businesses unless they're willing to pay the $8,000 or whatever it is that they're charging each one of these individual daycare centers.
And to add to your argument, as a former child care, no longer, I know how the state of California and agencies work, and this would be adding more work to the child care providers instead of assisting them. And they're not bringing more children to be covered, because I know he mentioned about the salary, but that goes to the Department of Education. They can't do anything about the salary increase.
Yeah.
So therefore, I don't see any benefits to any provider having a third person coming in, inspecting your site, and not getting any retribution of assistance with the state, with increasing your salary, with modification of your license, none of that. So I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, it just seems like it's just a platform or an application where you can find a provider. And thank you for the additional information and even more reason for us to not move forward with the request. It just seems like they would be adding more work instead of any added benefits to the local childcare providers.
Yeah, because all I saw was just salary, 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 everybody's salary. It's like, okay, we're paying for their salary. They're saying it's a free program, but a free
Well, it would be,
training program, but
Yeah.
are the children receiving free, not the children, but the parents receiving these services for free? Or are they paying the providers? You know what I mean? If they're paying the providers out of their pocket or they're going through another like state program. That wasn't clear to me. It finally dawned on me at the end. I'm like, what?
well, I believe it would be free if we funded the program, or free to the 17 or
fund their
13. I know they
salaries.
gave two different numbers, so it would be free to those, I guess, first 13, 17 that sign up. And then for anyone else that would want to sign up after that, they would have to pay whatever fees they're charging. To me, again, it's like an app that just connects the parents. I don't think the parents pay. I could be wrong. That wasn't very clear.
Yeah, that's
It
what
would be
they-
more the provider that's paying them to find parents who are willing to bring their kids to them.
Yeah.
And Joe Martinez, I saw that the city of Garden Grove partnered with them and that they just had a flyer telling people to sign up. Space was limited, so that's exactly just what it would be. We would be subsidizing what. they
Yeah,
would
subsidizing a
yeah.
business, to your point, to come into our community. Kimberly, if we can call for the vote.
So are we gonna do 9 separate votes for online, or are
I
we gonna?
think,
come
did
to
you
a-
want to do,
Well, we can vote for this one.
you
and
want to
then-
do the non-public services?
Correct. We'll do the
We can
vote
do
for
it
that
into
one.
2 sections.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sorry, thank you, Christine.
Committee Member Castillo,
Yes.
Committee Member Zavala,
That we're doing the boost, right?
for the non-public service requests.
The motion is to take care of the business of the non-public services. So there were 2 applicants, Boost and the Southgate Women's Business Center. And the motion is to fund the $12,000 of the Chamber of Commerce's
So the
Women's
women's,
Business
okay.
Center and not fund the Boost. That's the motion.
Yes.
Okay, so Committee Member Castillo,
Yes.
Committee Member Zavala,
Yes.
Committee Member Castañeda,
Yes.
Committee Member Martinez,
Yes.
Committee Member Mendoza,
Yes.
Committee Member Janer,
Yes.
Committee Member Alonso,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Cepeda,
Yes.
Chairperson Gonzalez,
Yes.
motion passes.
So moving to the public service projects. This one's a little bit harder. We have 180,000, but have 271,000, or no, 290,000, right?
294,500 requests.
94, okay, in asks.
Right. So the difference is a 93,500, if you want to look at it that way. Either way, either add everything up to the 180 or subtract 93,500. You can look at it either way. Right? Did I do it wrong? That's 294 minus 180. Oh. You know, it was just kind of brought to my attention that you might need to speak openly, because
Okay.
it's a open meeting, so it would be more like share your thoughts openly and take turns, I don't know. It's difficult, I know, but I think everybody, the information that you're discussing needs to be open for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what we were discussing here is what's the best way to divide the money among all of these providers that I think they all did a good job of stating their case why they deserve some of this funding. So that's kind of like what we need to decide on. One of the thoughts was, do we fund them more or less at the same level that we did last year? But even then, we would have to cut, right? I think one of for me, one of the targets would be number 4. I think it's a great program, but I think it's also the city's responsibility to fund this program. And I think it would be easier for Public Works to go back to City Council and ask for funding, as opposed to all the other providers here would not have that luxury.
And I have to, I apologize, maybe it's late, but I was bad at my math. Melissa just corrected me. We would actually have to cut 114,500. So I do apologize. Right. So
So
you need
what's the total that we have available? Is it still 180?
180,000.
I was hoping you were wrong there too, and we would
No.
go up.
I know, it's okay, ask again. No, that one I'm sure of, 180
Wanted to make
is what you
sure.
have. No, thank you.
That didn't change, okay.
I know it's late, I'm sorry.
We have to cut how much again? I'm sorry. 140, 14.
114,500.
Yeah, 114,500.
Yes.
If you want to fund everything, you're going to have to cut, shave, deduce 114,500. Or if you don't want to fund everything, if you don't want to recommend, you can, but just know you have to cut that much in order to meet the $180,000 budget.
I have a question, and I don't know if you're able to answer this. I don't know if you have the information. But Compatior, are they receiving funding separately from the city for their programs and services?
Yes.
Okay, so with that,
I'll just explain. So there was ARPA dollars. If you recall, there was some ARPA money, and they were receiving those funds. I think they're on their last fiscal year of funding for that.
Okay, and again, I'm not sure that you have this information in front of you, but I want to say they were underperforming the last time that they presented, or that they had this presentation, and we were made aware of the additional funding that they had. And I think that's one of the questions that we had, was that they were not projected to meet the deliverable. I could be wrong.
So the amount of funds that they had, they were spending their other money first, and then they have to spend this money, or they were spending other money before they spent their other funds. So they're meeting their goals. From the last I recall, nobody's in the red as far as meeting their goals. This fiscal year, as you heard one of them said, all of the agreements were issued very late. The agreement between the city and HUD was issued late, which triggered a late issuance to the subrecipients. And that had to do partly with the timeliness of spending funds. So just to let you know, like judging everyone's kind of work up till now is a little, against them, because they didn't really get to start until the second quarter.
Got a late start.
Yeah.
So for the graffiti of the Public Works if we were to just fund what we did last year, the 90,922, is there another something else they can use funding from the city to help with that?
Their budget identifies that they use general fund for their other funds.
So that's why I think they're easier to cut, just because again, they can go after general fund, they're in budget season.
So are we saying fund them the amount from last year?
I would say that that's where we cut. That would be one of the cuts.
How much are we planning to cut off?
Well, do we want to go one by one and kind of discuss what we want to give each program?
To be more thorough, I think.
Okay, so we can go with number one. I would recommend that we fund them at the level that they received last year. Number two, I would like to bring that one back and debate if we want to give them that, or if we can maybe give that to one of the other programs. So that one, let's skip. Number two, Compartidor Counseling Center. For number three, again, I would like to fund them or suggest to fund them at what they received the previous year at 24,010. Number four, we can skip and come back. For number five, I would again recommend that we fund them what we funded them last year at 20,898. I would like to give some funding to number six, which is the Southgate Home Modification Program. Last year, they received money from, you said it,
ARPA.
from ARPA, but not, so I would like to, are they receiving money from ARPA or any funding this year from any other programs?
No, just CDBG CV. So they were helping the city to use up that funding.
Okay.
And their agreement will end this fiscal year too.
May I go back to 5?
Say that again?
May I go back to 5?
5, yes.
I got a good vibe from them being truly honest and saying, you know, we don't want to ask for more, even though we say, you know, ask for more next time, right? So we're not going to fully fund them, even though we're like recommending of with all the efforts that they're doing with our youth.
Well,
It may not be hundreds of them, but I mean, enough to make a difference, I think, in our community. Yeah, and I think they deserve to be fully funded.
Okay, I mean, it's open to
'Cause
discussion.
they said, you know, they didn't want to ask for more than what they really didn't.
Okay.
I just thought that
And
was
there's-
truly honest, and I said, you know.
And there's
that's
times where
perfect.
their
Yeah,
equipment,
they're
you
frugal.
can tell that they need,
Yeah.
they need some of the uniforms.
Yeah, they would like to want more, but they need this, so.
Well, do they receive funding from any other, I mean, they're, I assume, within the Southgate Police Department, or do they receive any additional
If you
funding?
look at, they have their budget there, so it's not the way I read the budget, it's not a complete representation of the entire program, but most of the the other money that they indicate is from fundraising efforts.
Mhm.
And I wanted to make just a comment. You may notice that the column of current funding is like very odd numbers. The reason that that's odd is because just like we are now anticipating an allocation, the allocation that actually came in was less than what everybody was talking about a year ago. And so the amount was reduced by percentage, if that makes sense. So it's very likely that this committee recommended the full funding, but when the allocation came in, it was reduced because we reduced it across the board, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So these numbers are really because the full amount didn't come to the city. That's the reason.
Sure.
Okay.
It sounds like we want to then visit that one back, and instead of giving them what we gave them last year, we want to give them the 23.5. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
This
they're being
is a
very
cushion,
modest.
Like she said, in case funding comes less, it's going to go approximately to what they have. Instead of we go to the original, what they had funded last year, they're going to be cut off more. So as a cushion, let's keep it as is.
Okay. Okay. So we'll for For the Southgate Police Explorers, we'll go at 23.5.
Although I would like to open this up for discussion amongst everyone, but I would like to recommend that maybe we consider funding number 4, graffiti abatement, for 80,000. And then, I'm just speaking out loud, not a motion. 80,000. And then we completely cut number 7 and number 2. And so that would leave us with about $100,000 in approximate funding that we can separate into 4 different organizations, correct?
Okay, so
Okay, so
can we
the
go with how much are we giving number 1? Can we go through the numbers? Speak into the microphone, please.
So what I have is number 1 is at 21,343. Number 2 is cut, so 0. Number 3 at $24,010. Number 6 at 80,000. Sorry, I just want to make sure. Number 5. Or did I say 7? Sorry. So graffiti abatement, 80,000. Number 5, police explorers, 23,500. Nothing has been noted for Southern California rehab. And then number 7 would be cut. That's a total allocation of $148,000, $853. So the balance to allocate would be $31,147.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to, for the Southgate home modification, I'd like to suggest that we give them their full amount of 15,000.
And with doing that, what does it leave us with?
$16,147.
So we can do the 16 back to the graffiti public, because honestly, this program, you can go to, where I work at St. Francis, so I drive at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and I'll see graffiti when I'm heading home at 3 in the morning, 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, it's gone.
Yeah, I don't even see it.
So what's the balance?
So the balance, keeping at 80,000 would be 16,147.
So I'd like to recommend to give Family Violence Prevention Program an additional 1,000, so they would go up to 25.
I'm sorry, what number?
Number 3.
Didn't you allocate the 16 additional to the 80 for the graffiti, Myra?
Right.
So yeah.
So from that, we would minus 1,000 and give that to.
Can we just make everybody a round number?
Yeah.
And go from there?
We can. Okay, so number 1, how much are we giving
That way
them?
we're not cutting pennies and nickels and dimes.
So number 1, currently you're at 21,343.
So do we just want to go with 21.5?
22, they're asking for 24.
All right, 22?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, number 2, we said we weren't giving anything. Number 3, we're going to go 25.
25 sounds good.
25 sounds good.
Let's skip 4, because whatever's left over, we're going to
Okay, so
just totally
24.
fund them.
24
Number
even.
5, we're going to go at 23.5.
I'm sorry, number 5?
Yes,
We're,
number
we're
5.
still keeping 4 at 80?
So
We're going to
get
come back,
to that.
whatever's left over.
Oh, we're gonna
go to
abate
them.
them, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
So for number 6, we're going to go 15. Number 7, we're not going to fund. What does that leave us with for the graffiti abatement, number 4?
You have a balance of 14,500, so we will be looking at 94,500 for graffiti abatement.
Okay,
You
they got a raise.
reallocate the money. Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to move forward with those numbers.
Eric Castillo, I second that.
anything for us? No, just kidding. An extra
Dinner.
$25, please.
Oh, with that, hold on, take away like, what you want, steak, lobster, what do you?
I'm vegan, just kidding. I'm good with beef.
Okay, so,
Roll call vote.
call for the vote.
Committee Member Castillo,
Yes.
Committee Member Zavala,
Yes.
Committee Member Castañeda,
Yes.
Committee Member Martinez,
Yes.
Committee Member Mendoza,
Yes.
Committee Member Janer,
Yes.
Committee Member Alonso,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Cepeda,
Yes.
Chairperson Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So with, we're ready to adjourn?
Wait,
Or is there anything else
that we
on
have
it?
to do?
We have just, I'm just looking at your agenda, so.
Comments.
We do have an obligation for audience comments. I can fairly well commit to you, we won't have any staff comments.
Okay, commissioners, I just want to say, how can I express the gratitude, we couldn't get the splash pad funded. Okay, fine, but this is the next best outcome. I mean, really, I can't tell you the gratitude that I have, the jubilation, the joy. I mean, you've given our city what I've been trying to do since 2022, which is a win for the people, a victory for the residents, and it's I was talking in the hall too. The bearded gentleman. You saw Steve Costley, the one with the glasses and the beard. So he's the director of Parks and Recreation. But the other bearded gentleman, that's Edgar Palayo. He's one of our commissioners on Park and Recreation Commission. He said, "Look, when you got to tell the commissioners, I said thank you for doing that." So on behalf of Edgar Palayo and the residents of Southgate, I want to say thank you all so much. The Italians. I'm not going to be able to do justice to it, but my favorite way of expressing gratitude, I think the Italians say it best. Grazie mille, mille grazie. Thank you.
Any city staff comments?
I just want to say my comment, my 10 cents in this. We do have a small splash pad at Azalea. If it gets hot, call me, email me. I'll go with you. When it gets hot, because the kids do enjoy that. They do. Someday, we're not gonna erase it completely, but someday we'll eventually work towards that. No, I know you're not. I know you've been doing a lot of research, and I commend you for that.
And they did say they want to hear more from the community, so start passing flyers in at Southgate Park. You want a splash pad? Go to city
yeah.
council. You want a splash pad? Go to the city council.
Start gathering signatures.
Yeah. Any city staff comments?
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, thanks for the experience of being with you tonight. Great discussion, and you folks really are impressive the way you work through those public service items. Seriously, that's great. We will have this teed up for the council's consideration on, I think it's March 11th, whatever their next meeting is.
No, part of it.
Part of it. Part of it.
The substantial amendment is scheduled.
That's right, not the service. Great.
The other part, we're going to have to wait for the federal budget, hopefully. So we'll see what happens.
The other just informational item very quickly, just to give you a sense of, I mentioned I'm your interim community development director. The city is going through a recruitment right now. The application period is closed. We'll be going through interviews, making a selection, hopefully find a good candidate for you for a permanent resident in that office. But I'm happy to be here to just kind of help support staff operations while they've gone through this transition. And I'm retired out of a city in Orange County about 5 years ago and still dabbling and finding it interesting. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Any citizen advisory comments, closing comments?
A la camita. Let's go home and sleep.
Well, I have one last comment. Thank you, staff, consultants, for putting this together. I'm on the other side usually, so I know how much work goes into this. So late nights, last week was a little rough. I had city council where I work at on Tuesday and then came over here on Wednesday. So I commend you for your hard work and for your late nights that you do. And also commissioners, I thank you for your service. So with that, I'd like to say good night. It's 9:40 and we're adjourned.
Nobody motioned, what?